thanks for having
Yeah.
me again, Christy.
Oh, glad you could make it.
Yeah.
So,
I'll
okay.
give the caveat here, and I'm sure we can include it in the recording that a lot of this is just like me speculating.
Yeah.
I don't want the Elvis estate to come after me.
They're angry. Yeah,
I th
they'll.
And litigious, yeah.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I don't know. I'm happy to kind of just roll with it and give my take because and some of this stuff may have credence, and I kind of want to note that too because it's not like Elvis was an angel.
No.
Hey, and that information's out there. So we're
Yeah,
only repeating what's already out there. Nobody's pulled anything out of their ass. So
yeah. As a
it's all
former
good.
journalist, I'm all about giving the caveat and letting people make their own conclusions.
We all know Elvis was married to Priscilla. They had one child, Lisa Marie, who died January 2023. And I still can't wrap my head around that. But Elvis dated a lot of women, including Natalie Wood and Margaret, whom he met on the set of Viva Las Vegas, Connie Stevens, Sybil Shepherd, Peggy Lipton from the Mod Squad, Rita Moreno, who apparently just wanted to make Marlon Brando jealous. And then there were the girlfriends like Linda Thompson, Anita Wood, whom he dated in the 50s, and Ginger Alden. He was engaged to her at the time of his death. But there are scads of other women, women that he picked up on the road, one night stands, what have you. So it's no surprise that these stories have cropped up about Elvis having more than just one child. Now, Cador, you mentioned that there was a 2016 National Enquirer exhaustive investigation into this very thing. So tell us a little bit about that.
I was actually surprised that the National Enquirer had the courage to say all of this because they were claiming DNA evidence and evidence that Elvis was financially supporting these children from afar. So they were saying he had full knowledge of most of these children. I think they claimed about eight of them and said that they were getting money from him and that all of these suspicions were accurate. And it's a lot of interesting characters in there and a lot of varying levels of possibility, but it's interesting to research these characters and look at their motivations.
Well, it's in the National Enquirer, so it's got to be true.
Right.
So you mentioned that there are eight people that that article or that investigation covered, three that we're going to talk in depth about.
Hmm.
But Stephanie, can you just kind of give us an overview, a real quick overview of the five people that we're not going to talk about in depth?
Yeah, so it's so interesting because I feel like, as you say, Cater, there's these different levels of folks who come out of the woodwork over the years. There's Candy Joe Fuller, Dieter, Leroy Kuzma, John D. Smith Presley, and Elvis Jr. And these are all pretty prominent folks, just in prominent claims over the years that have come through. And encouraging folks to go kind of just do a little read up on that because it's fascinating. But yeah, interesting about kind of the three that we're going to focus on too, because they got their own stories and they're kind of crazy stories.
Isn't one of them dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, Leroy Kuzma is dead. Yeah, he's deceased.
Okay. But there are all these very similar aspects to these stories, and I want to talk about that later, some of the threads that run through these stories. But let's do a deep dive into three of these people. So the first one we're going to talk about is Deborah. I don't know if I'm going to say her middle name right. Givone Presley, aka Deborah Presley Brando. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I read Brando, that got my attention. So what's the deal with her, Cater?
Well, she got that last name because she's a former actress living in Los Angeles and was once married to Marlon Brando's late son, Christian Brando. And her story is that she claims her mom had an intense 2-year relationship when Deborah met Elvis when she was 14 years old, back when he was an unknown musician at a recording studio in Charlotte, North Carolina. So you'll notice a common thing theme among the mothers of the supposed love children is that they often claim to have met him before he got really famous. And because he was less documented before he was famous, it gets
Well, that's
hard to prove
convenient.
the logistics. Yeah, it is very convenient. Anyway, Barbara gave birth to Deborah, and as Deborah grew up, hearing her mom's stories about her involvement with Elvis during the 50s, Deborah eventually built up the courage to ask if Elvis was her father. And her mom said yes. And almost immediately after this, Deborah went to court, declared herself the legal heir, and demanded half of his estate.
How did the estate react to that?
Well, the court made a very interesting ruling, which was only Elvis's children born in wedlock are entitled to his assets.
Uh-huh.
So it's very interesting how they worded it, and it got a lot of people questioning the verdict because they didn't outwardly deny Deborah's relation to Elvis Presley. In fact, the way they worded it almost sounded like they were confirming her suspicions. And my theory is that they worded the ruling this way to set a precedent for any future Elvis children cases because we were already in '89, we were already seeing a string of love children making public statements and claiming. So this would kind of nip that in the bud. And so that's an important story in the Elvis love children canon. Deborah also wrote a book about this. You'll notice that nearly every love child has written a book, and I think it's more of a literature game than anything. And her book was called Starseed.
Okay. So
Mhm.
that's interesting. I like what you said about setting a precedent with that ruling, but it does kind of leave the door open for someone to question if the estate is acknowledging not just this particular person, but the possibility that he could have some illegitimate kids out there.
Right.
It's an interesting way to word that. Okay, Stephanie, moving on to the next love child. This person's name is Lisa Johansson. What do we know about Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa's an interesting case for sure. People say that she remains one of Elvis's most bizarre mysteries. She lives in Florida to this day, has a law degree, she's a married mother of four, and her very interesting claim is that she was spirited out of Graceland after Elvis died in August 1977. She said, I was spirited out for security reasons when I was 9 years old. And then this part was a very bizarre twist. She says, "Was taken to Sweden and replaced by an imposter who later became Lisa Marie." To me,
Oh my God.
Mhm.
that's a pretty specific claim and a little bit wild. So she had been photographed with Priscilla's late brother, Tom, in another photo. And so the National Enquirer has claimed this photo to be, it's like, okay, this is evidence. But it's been also noted that the Elvis clan family makes themselves available for fans. They love to meet them. So this photo, it's like, here's brother, here's Priscilla and Priscilla's mother. It feels like that's not a claim that's going to hold up, in court. Um, I just keep going back to the crazy part about saying, yeah, I was spirited away to Sweden. It's like, oh, okay. Like this person's maybe going through something. And then you look at her photo, right? And the flip side of that is she looks just like Elvis. So,
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of mysteries with somebody who's huge icon like this, and some things we'll never know, and maybe we're not meant to know, right?
So she's Lisa Marie. She's the real Lisa Marie.
That's
What
right.
she says, yeah.
She even
Lisa Marie
wrote a
Presley is not dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
She's
know
the real
what?
one.
I'm sorry, I just flashed on the whole Elvis is alive thing that went on in the 80s. That was such a big deal on all the
Yeah.
talk shows. Yeah, so okay, Lisa Marie is not dead. Good to know.
Yeah.
Now, did she write a book? This person write a book too? Do we
She
know?
did. And she even wrote the book under the name Lisa Marie Presley, which,
No.
yeah, it's
Will
called
that hold up in
I,
court?
Lisa Marie. Right. And she gets a lot of news attention in Sweden for being this character. But she even has a section of the book, as you were talking about her facial structure and using scientific facial analyzation to compare her face with Elvis's face. I think she does look a lot like Elvis, but the whole idea that Priscilla Presley would abandon her child in Sweden and replace her with a random child for security reasons makes it hard to believe for me.
Now I'm interested in the legalities. How could she publish a book under the name Lisa Marie Presley and the estate not come after her?
Well, I think the estate has reached out to her a lot. In fact, she sued the estate because the lawyer for the Presleys sent her apparently a very angry letter, and she sued
I'm
him for
sure.
libel and emotional damages.
Oh, okay. Well, is so she's alive and well and still living in Sweden?
I assume so. There's not a lot of information on many of these people about what happened after they came out about Elvis. In fact, like it's very hard to find information about where they are now, besides maybe Desiree. Mhm.
Desiree Presley. Stephanie, had you ever heard of her before? Because she's the only one on this list that I've heard of.
Yeah, I'd heard the name, and to me, the first thing is like, oh, she's literally using the last name. Wow.
Hmm.
It's like that's that's interesting. How's that gonna hold up? But she's been doing it for a long time. For folks who don't know, she's considered the foremost likely and famous love child. Her mother wrote a book, her mother, Lucy DeBarban, about her affair with Elvis and Desiree being their alleged child, called Are You Lonesome Tonight? The Untold Story of Elvis Presley's One True Love and the Child He Never Knew. Wow, to call herself Elvis's one true love, by the way, that's a big claim. That's a big claim. She co-wrote that book with a former Miami news reporter, Derry Matura. What was interesting to me, especially as a former journalist, was like Matura said, okay, well, could this be real? I have some doubts if this is real. And then he met Desiree, was like, oh my God, looks so much like Elvis. And then said, oh, I was able to uh, look up every word. It said every word, no matter what she said, I was able to verify with somebody, which is, you know, that's something. Uh, and her mom, DeBarvin, says, I met Elvis in 1953 near Shreveport, Louisiana. She was
Yeah.
16, and we know Elvis did like teenagers. Said it was very early in his career. Uh, so yeah, it's interesting because Desiree, yeah, lists her birth certificate. Her father's Randolph Presley, civil engineer, but obviously she's capitalizing in a different way here. Maybe capitalizing is too strong of a term, but she's in the public eye under her own circumstances for her own reason. So it's kind of fascinating how she's parlayed this. But it was in 1987 when the Orlando Sentinel reported that Desiree could be a love child of Elvis. So she's gotten press coverage for this, for her claims. And to my knowledge, she's kept that particular story over the years. Of course, Graceland, as I think that they would in this case, says this book is ridiculous and incredible. We're not dignifying the matter by responding with further comments, which is, I think, the only thing Graceland could do um, in something like this. But yeah, it's interesting that she's continued to get this coverage over the years, right? Um, and to really
Yeah,
be
I
kind of the
read that
foremost
book.
one. Oh,
I
really?
read that
Really?
Really?
book when it came. Oh, yeah. This was at the height of the Elvis is Alive. crazed.
Yeah.
And that book came out in 87, and I read it either right when it came out or the next year. I was 17 or 18 years old when I read that. And even then, I remember thinking, this is bullshit. This is just, I remember seeing her mother and Desiree on Donahue.
Oh, wow.
So they really got a lot of mainstream media with that claim in that book.
Hmm.
And the mother died some years ago. But yeah, if you look at Desiree, of all these people that Cador got pictures of that we've been talking about, she looks the most like him. And I tend to look at all of this stuff with a grain of salt. But
Hmm.
this is the only one that I think, I don't know, maybe. I know I said bullshit earlier, but that's the only one that I think there's any possibility that it could be true.
I think the fact that she looks like him
Yeah.
gave the story a lot more credence to the public. And the fact that she wrote a book about it and went very into detail about it and made these big, bold claims. I went on Goodreads to look at a lot of the comments, and it's just a lot of discussion about what she's saying and analyzing what could have happened here. It's not a lot of like tracing sources, but it's like
Hmm.
you should read the book and see what you think.
Are people on in these chats in Goodreads saying that they believe it?
Some of them,
Okay. That doesn't
yeah,
surprise me. That doesn't surprise
there's
me at all.
very split opinion on that book.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, you mentioned some patterns before, like people making these claims before he got famous. Did you see anything else that you thought were threads between that linked the stories?
Well, a lot of these claims were made pretty soon after Elvis's death, which is
Okay.
significant. I believe Desiree's mom claimed that she had kept Elvis's paternity a secret from him until about a couple days before he died, when she hinted at a possible child. There's a couple other parents that came forward with this. I believe Candy Joe Fuller's mom came forward after he died to reveal
Okay.
this to the public. So that's a common thread. Another common thread that we brought up is that many of these mothers were underage when they met him.
Something else in looking at your research, Cater, several of these people who claim to be Elvis's kids are country singers. Like the Candy Joe
Hmm.
Fuller is a former country singer, and John D. Smith Presley is a country singer from Scottsdale, Arizona. And
Hmm.
he's another one claiming to have DNA evidence that Elvis was his father. And also wrote a book, Let the Boys Sing. Elvis is my daddy.
That's my
That's got a,
favorite.
that's my favorite too. I might have to read that book. Oh, and this is a great one too. The Elvis Jr. guy is an Elvis impersonator.
Hmm.
So looks like he took his job a little bit too seriously.
Especially from those photos that I've seen. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I'm gonna do almost an Elvis Halloween costume. Looks like what this
Yeah.
guy's doing.
Yes.
So
Okay, well, all this is interesting. Anybody have any final words about Elvis's love children?
with the caveat that it's pure speculation on my part, I think there's probably love children of Elvis that have never come forward at all, honestly, in all likelihood.
Well,
And
I think the thing that keeps these rumors and stories of illegitimate children going is that it's not out of the realm of possibility for him.
hmm yeah, I think
Hmm.
that's really what gets people excited about this. And I would encourage anyone who's interested to look up some of the articles and some of the pictures because it's just a lot of characters and it's super interesting to read about.
Yes, and Elvis Presley estate, if you're listening, we are not endorsing anybody. We are merely putting this out there, and it's actually already out there. So,
It's already out there.
peace out. No harm intended here.